And two very interesting and exciting transfer themes for Manchester United this evening. James Maddison, Ruben Diaz from Benfica. We'll start off with James Maddison, exactly the sort of player Manchester United fans would want us to be signing to. 22 years of age, fantastic season for Leicester City. I think he's been involved directly in 14 goals, 7 assists, 7 goals. I believe also that he has created more chances than anybody in the Premier League. But exactly what Manchester United should be going for. I don't really care the fact that he's English, that's great. I don't really care that he's a Manchester United fan. There's pictures of him in United kits all the way through his youth. That's great as well. But what I do care about is that he's exactly the right age. He's Premier League proven. He's hungry to make the next step. And he's got lots left in the tank to get better and better and better. So I'm really, really excited about this. It's come from two places. It's come from Duncan Castles, who for me, I think has got to prove himself this summer anyway. He was always considered to be Jose Mourinho's sort of in-man as a journalist, and Mourinho's not the manager now, so I take it with a pinch of salt. He's spoken about 3 different goalkeepers in the last 3 weeks that we're after. Well, we're clearly not after any goalkeeper while we've got De Gea, and we can't sign all 3 of them, so he's hedging his bets there. But if he's right about Madison, great. But it's not just him. The Independent talking about it as well, saying that Manchester United are in pole position to sign him. With James Maddison, what do you get? You get somebody who can play in a midfield 3 would be great for us, because I think he can play the Herrera position, and I think he can also play the more advanced position that Pogba plays in. Basically, you could play him in a midfield 3 with Pogba and still have the anchor man midfielder behind him. I think what he would definitely bring is that ability to create. I think Manchester United, and we'll be talking about what Van Gaal has said about Woodward and the United team in general. And I think Van Gaal made a lot of mistakes at United, but I think he's only echoing what United fans feel at the moment. But he has got an ability to create chances. He can score goals himself. And what I've seen of him, and I have seen Leicester play a few times, not just against United, what he has got is a real grit, desire, determination. I certainly like it and moan about it in the United Stand FC team when I'm doing the chats there, and I certainly want to see it in a Manchester United team, as we all do. That fight, that desire, that passion to wear a shirt. I think you look at I hate to say it, you look at Liverpool, you look at Man City, they've got a fight and a desire and a professionalism to wear the shirt, and I think he would give us that. And as I said, 100% he fits in with what United should be looking at. You know, would you want James Maddison or would you want Gareth Bale? Would you want James Maddison or would you want Toni Kroos? Would you want James Maddison or would you want somebody else who's coming towards the end of their career? I'd go for James Maddison because, yeah, we know what Kroos and Bale are, but they're definitely coming towards the end of their career and they're on the way down the mountain. James Maddison, all right, he might not be as good as those 2 players, but he's on his way up. 22 years of age, he's on his way up. So what worries me about it is it's too logical that Manchester United would be in for James Maddison, because at some point we were bound to get linked to him. We were bound to get linked to him because he's such a logical signing for us. And that's why I fear that there might not be anything in this, because it's too logical, it's too obvious, he's too much the right sort of signing for Manchester United. And I think maybe this is just the week. I personally think that we could sign somebody this week, but I think from next Monday, that's when it's really going to kick off, when all the international games are over. So is this a story to fill the start of the week from the media, or actually is there anything in it? Because let's not forget, he only moved from Norwich to Leicester a year ago. And I think they paid about £25 million for him. So, yeah, Leicester might think, well, £60 million, that doubles our money in 12 months. But there might be not buyback clauses, there might be percentages to go to Norwich, there might be add-ons and all sorts. So it would be very, very unusual. And I do agree with people who are saying it in the live comments. It would be very unusual for a club to buy somebody and then sell them a season later. So that worries me a little bit about it as well. And also the second thing that worries me is I think it's just I think if we ran a poll as the United Stand community and said, which midfielder would you sign from the Premier League, James Maddison would get voted by a lot of people, because we all know that, not really statistically, but we all know what he's achieved in a team like Leicester, who, to be honest with you, I think Leicester are much improved now under Brendan Rodgers, and I think they're a good team. But under Puel, they were a little bit underachieving, but he achieved in that team. So, if we got him at Manchester United, you can forget your Verrattis, you can forget your Ndembele's, you can forget your Thomas Partey's. I would be as happy with Maddison as I would be with any of those. And I know that's a big statement, but I really, really would. I've got to say though, I'm a little bit concerned, because I just think that we're being linked with so many players at the moment that that maybe this is just a little bit of a story out there. Hope Ollie's not going to play the Diamonds. Play 4-3-3, says Daz OW. I think if we're going to play the Diamonds, then we've just got to play. We've got to play it a little bit cleverer with the right sort of players. I mean, look, we're going to talk about what Van Gaal said, but. And everyone is talking about the graphics. Just want to shout out Draughty Devil, absolutely fantastic, up in the game yet again on the United stand. We'll be using these a little bit more for you throughout the transfer window. So while I'm talking, you can also get more factual knowledge as well. Like you can see with James Maddison there, attacking, but inexperience at the highest level. I suppose that is a query about Madison. Can he, he's been playing for Leicester. Is he a top 6 player? And I think that there are players out there that over the years people have mistakenly thought, yeah, they can make the step up. They're a top 6 player. And I think, I always think it's quite interesting when you think about away from the top 6, almost like a Premier League 11, but you can't pick anyone from the top 6. Is Wilfried Zaha? He would be in that He would be in that 11. Is he a top 6 player? Yeah, probably is. Wan-Bissaka? Yeah, probably is. Harry Maguire? Probably is. James Maddison? Yeah, I think he probably is. And that wouldn't be a negative that would stop me from signing him. Certainly not at all. 60 million. Maddison isn't even good. He's had one good season, says E. Shepherd. Well, maybe you should watch him, mate. I doubt you're a Leicester City season ticket holder. And I think actually one good season, isn't that what people were saying about Mo Salah last year? So I think if you're a good footballer, you're a good footballer. I think if you're a striker, you can say one good season, but Maddison's playing in a role where you can't really hide. And if you look at what Maddison's done in a Leicester midfield and you compare that to what Fred and Matic and every other United midfielder have done, then it would be a massive improvement for us. But I want to talk about what Van Gaal says, but let's talk about Ruben Diaz secondly as well. I've got a super chat here as well. Exus TV, love the show, Mark. We keep hearing the same names recently. How would you feel about Shah, Turney or Inaki William? Keep up the good work. I think out of those 3, Kieran Tierney would be a very interesting signing because I do worry about who our backup left back is. I presume it's Ashley Young and Delow. But I do wonder who our backup left back is. And the trouble is that I believe that Luke Shaw is going to be our first choice left back. And I do think that we do need a backup in that position. But I don't think that we'll go for it, to be honest with you. Let's talk about Ruben Diaz. Now, I had to check this again today because I've always been a big fan of Ruben Diaz. He's Benfica centre-back. He's in his early 20s. In fact, I can't even remember how old he is. I've been caught out for not researching properly. I can't remember how old Ruben Diaz is. I'm gonna predict he is 21. He could be 19. He could be 22. I'm going to predict that he's 21. But Ruben Diaz, as centre-back for Benfica, absolutely fantastic. He's doing really, really well there at the moment. United linked with him by Portuguese outlet Ebola, who are a mediocre sort of reliability. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But I think that he's got a £60 million release clause. And the story basically is about that release clause because £60 million for Ruben Diaz did seem to be... He's 22. He's 22. A lot of people saying he's 22. So again, prime age. Absolutely prime age. Now, he's become a bit of a leader in the Benfica backline. He's very, very, very well thought of. A bit like Delow and a bit like that sort of player that United need to bring in. £60 million release clause always seemed a little bit expensive for him, but when you look at Koulibaly, who's a target, £100 million, Ligt, who we might miss out on because he might go to Barcelona, and you look at Harry Maguire, who again, you're probably going to have to pay £70 to £80 million for him. Ruben Diaz, 22 years of age, Benfica, and a lot of people have said to me he's too small. He's 6'1", so I don't think there's a massive amount of problems with that. I mean, all right, it's great if you're 6'3", but 6'1". I mean, as a centre back, if you're 6'1", you're fine. Good on the ball as well. So he's an interesting one to keep an eye on as well. I really do think that United need to bring a centre back in, and I certainly wouldn't be opposed to that. I mean, to be honest with you, if we signed Madison and Ruben Diaz, I'd be over the moon. I really, really would. Andrew96 says Rabiot looking likely. Feel like he would be wasted at 6 though. Feel he could fill the Herrera role. What's your opinion? Mate, I think if we get Rabiot, I'll be pleasantly surprised. I think to get the thing about Rabiot that really excites me is 2 things. And I'm not one of those people who are moaning about his attitude. I really don't. I think people who are moaning about Rabiot's attitude are either understandably fans who don't realise what we bought with Cantona and other players. And yeah, he's got a bit of an attitude problem. I'm sure that's not disputable. But what I like about the Rabiot deal is there's no disputing the fact that he's a very, very good player. He can play in a number of positions and he's free. And that makes it worthwhile. I wouldn't want us to destroy the wage structure to bring him in, but I don't think we would have to do that. I don't think he's going to be a player that's going to come in on like 300 grand a week. I think it's more likely to be 200, 250, whatever. And I think that you can get by on that because you're not paying a transfer fee. I certainly don't think United players currently should be in turmoil if Rabiot comes in on 250 grand a week because we haven't got to pay a transfer fee for him. I like the fact that he's free. I don't concern myself about the wages as long as they're not like Sanchez-esque wages. And as for his footballing ability, is fine. Absolutely fine. As for the attitude, well, I think we're all being a little bit... I think we're pontificating there on something that, actually may not even be an issue. He may be now realising that he needs to get his head down and work hard at his career. He may be misunderstood. He may be a total knobhead. But the reality is, if he wants to come to Manchester United and we can get the best out of him, it would be great. And as I said, Cantona had attitude problems before we bought him. And that shouldn't be the reason not to buy him. As for where I would play him, look, I think his ideal position probably would be, if we're playing a 4-3-3, the Herrera position, box-to-box. But, to be honest with you, if we went and bought another player as a box-to-box and we played Rabiot in the Matic role, I'd be ecstatic because I don't want Matic to play. I think he's absolutely shit. So, yeah, I'd be happy with either of those. 60 million for a Crystal Palace right back is insane, says Ryan FTW. Well, that's the English tax, isn't it? I think that Wan-Bissaka is probably worth around 40 million in a realistic transfer market, but because Palace don't want to sell and because he's English, that's what we would have to pay. We have signed a 16-year-old from Ajax, Adrian. Yep, spoke about him this morning. We're also after, I forget the lad's name, there's another 16-year-old that we're trying to get from Monaco as well. So those recruitments of the younger players continues at United, which we've been doing now for a good 3 years. We've been buying players who are 15, 16-year-olds. None of them coming through yet, though. That's the thing. If that works, it could be a very, very smart move by Manchester United, but we'll have to wait and see. Super chat here coming in from Chloe Jenkins. Attitude could be a big thing if he takes it onto the pitch. Well, I think as well, there's a very... just talking about... I disagree with people about that. I disagree with people about that you shouldn't buy a player because they've got a bad attitude. I mean, you don't know how many players in the current United squad who've got bad attitudes. It's only because it's come out about Rabiot. But there is a quote that I think is very, very important, and it's one that was made by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer quite recently. And he said that there's a certain kind of attitude to play for Manchester United. Now, and then somebody used that and then used it against Rabiot on social media. And I don't think that's what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is talking about. I think what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is talking about there's a certain kind of attitude to play for Manchester United. I think what he's talking about there is what we want. And as I said this morning on the show, I'm really... I was on the kickoff with True Geordie and Lawrence on Saturday night, and obviously Lawrence is a Liverpool fan, and I had to sit and watch Liverpool in the Champions League, and there was a bit of banter after the show trying to wind me up, and I said, you know what, I'm not even there. I can't be bantered by Liverpool fans because I'm so fed up with my own club. I think to be bantered, you've got to be finishing second in the league. You've got to be knocked out by Liverpool in the semi-finals. We're not even a contender. Yes, Liverpool are our biggest rival, but we're not even on the same page. We're not even on the same street. We're not even in the same postcode. We're nowhere near. We're like Everton at the moment. Everton hate Liverpool, but they're hoping everyone else does favours for them to stop them winning because they're not good enough themselves. And that's what we are now. So to get wound up by Liverpool winning things, I don't like it, but I can't get wound up about it because we're hoping other teams do ourselves favours, whereas for most of my life, we've been able to do it ourselves. So I think when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer talks about attitude, I think he's fully aware that United team doesn't have the right attitude to wear a Manchester United shirt. And this is what makes it interesting when you think about people like James Maddison and Bruno Fernandes and people like that. These people who are looking to go to the next stage, who have achieved, and I think there's a very big difference here. A lot of people are very fascinated by the youth player like the Lingard and the Rashford. Oh, they've come through the youth. Well, what about the player like James Maddison, who started off at Coventry and then went on loan to Aberdeen and then was at Norwich and then has gone to Leicester and now is looking to go to United? What journey, stereotypically, is going to make a player more motivated, more appreciative, and more professional? James Maddison's had to work his way up into the Premier League in lesser teams. Would Jesse Lingard have started at Coventry, been bought by Norwich, been bought by Leicester, and then be bought by Manchester United? I think it's highly unlikely, the talent he is. I think Jesse Lingard's a lucky player. I think he's a good player, but I don't think he'd be a Manchester United player if he'd started off at Coventry City's youth setup like Madison. So I think that's what we need in a United shirt, is these players who are hungry. Hunger is a word I see a lot of United fans talking about, and they're spot on. We need these players who've actually worked hard to get where they are, who've developed their talent, who've battled their way up and want to come to United and battle again. I mean, Roy Keane was the prime example. Co-Bramblers in Cork to Nottingham Forest to Manchester United. Brilliant. Absolutely. The journey's there. You've worked your way up. And that's what United need. They need these hungry players who've got talent left to burn and are professional and they want to be at the club. And I think that's what Ollie's talking about when he's talking about attitude. What would your price be for Maddison and Wan-Bissaka, says Elliot Murphy? I actually think £60 million for Maddison is about right. I don't know whether Leicester would want more, considering he's only been at Leicester a year and they only paid £25 million for him a year ago. I think you've got to go in with 60 million, yeah. We've had another super chat here from Imrano TV. The most improvement we could make is signing any right back. It would mean we would have 11 players on the field instead of 10. Meunier not be young, but at least he is not. May not be young, but at least he's not young. It's a bit of a banter joke there, and it's a good one. Let's talk about Van Gaal's quotes, because I know a lot of people were interested in this. Now, I'm going to put my hands up here and say I hadn't actually read all of his quotes. All I'd heard this morning when I went live was that Van Gaal had come out talking about United. And my first reaction, because I'm a United fan, I'm not, I don't have to be an Ed Woodward fan or an Ollie fan or a Pogba fan. I'm a Manchester United fan. That's what I am. And that's what we all are. So I defend Manchester United. So when an ex-manager like Mourinho and Van Gaal have a go about our club, I'm like, well, look, you were manager of our club for a couple of years. You can moan about not having the money. You can moan about this, that and the other. But you picked the team. You played the shit football. So I'm not really sympathetic about what you've said. However, when listening to what some of the things that Van Gaal said, I'm not applauding Van Gaal and wishing he wasn't sacked. I think he had to be sacked. He wasn't the right manager for Manchester United. But what I've taken from the quotes from Van Gaal are that they just verify what a lot of us as United fans have feared for a long time. Let me just read these super chats because I don't want to miss them. Sean Byrne, what right winger do you think we will sign, if any? I think we're going to sign Daniel James, but he's a left-sided player. And I do think we'll sign another right winger. I think, to be honest with you, if we only sign Daniel James, I'll be gutted because we've got to sign a right winger. For me, I think Steven Bergwijn is always interesting at PSV, and we have been linked with him in the past, so I wouldn't be surprised with him. Irving Lozano, I would love us to get. Beyond that, I don't really know. I mean, there are a few, but at the moment it's pretty quiet. I think the United wanted Jadon Sancho, and I think that we've blown that by not getting Champions League football. Reason Lingard ain't playing well is because he's a centre-attacking midfielder, says White Soda. Well, he's been playing centre-attacking midfield for the last 3 months of the season. We haven't really been playing the 4-3-3. We started playing the Diamonds and Lingard was playing in that and he was still shit. So, there you go. Duke Media UK. Jonathan Tah could be a valuable United centre-back alternative. He could. Not heard him been linked with us, but then again, I'm sure we will be linked with him at about some time. Dazzo W says PSG made Rabiot out to be worse because he wouldn't sign a contract. He had attitude because they put him in the reserves. Yeah, and I think the second strand to that is that he refused to be on standby for the French squad, didn't he? So, yeah. ASJ Gaming, do you think we'll get Rabiot this season? You know what? I can only give my opinion. No, I don't think we're going to get him. I don't. But that's just an opinion. I've got no inside knowledge. I just don't think we will get him. I don't. But let's go back to those Van Gaal comments because they're very, very interesting. So what he basically said is that you've got people in charge of that football club, Manchester United, who have no idea about football. And then you've got people... He basically admitted that Di Maria was a player that he wanted when he was at AZ Alkmaar. And he didn't oppose him being signed for Manchester United, but there were other options that he wanted. And we've heard this sort of rumour a few times with United, where managers haven't got the players that they wanted. Now that is always an issue, isn't it? Because what happens is generally Mourinho will speak more about Manchester United in a year's time. Van Gaal speaks more about Manchester United now, because after you're sacked, you normally have a year or two where, as part of your severance package, you're not allowed to speak about United. Leaks come out, but that's the way it works. But there seems to be this constant thing, and Van Gaal sort of proved it today, that the managers want certain players and they get provided other players, and they don't necessarily get much say in who those players are. And what Van Gaal was saying is that basically these people making the decisions are not football people. And as you can see on the page there, a zero understanding of football, says Louis Van Gaal in relation to Ed Woodward, and he thought Manchester United could buy every player. And I think that, he spoke about the style of football that he played, and he tried to play a high line, and he wanted to press, but the problem he had is that Wayne Rooney was basically past it, which we all said at the time, and there wasn't enough good quality creative players, which is why he brought Memphis in, and it's why he valued people like Mata. But the problem he had is that he didn't have enough creative players at Manchester United, and I think that's the problem. And that goes into something else. I put this tweet out today. In their first 3 years at Man City and Liverpool, Klopp and Pep signed over 20 players between them. So 20 players Pep signed, 20 players Klopp signed in his first 3 years. The only manager we've had that was 3 years at the club was Mourinho, and in that time he signed 9 players. Now, that shows you, doesn't it? Man City and Liverpool are dominating English football. Now, there has to be a correlation between both of those managers have signed 20 players. So, and our manager only got half of that. And yet we were playing catch-up in the first place. And what that shows me is that it's bad recruitment, obviously, but it's also what we saw certainly with Pep and certainly with Klopp is that when they went into those clubs, if you look at the team, if you look at the starting 11, the game before Pep took over Man City, and the starting 11, the game before Klopp took over Liverpool, and then you look at their teams now, how many of those players are still there? Not many. So it's not just about the fact that Liverpool and Man City have bought a lot more players than us. It's also about the fact that they've got rid of players. So I think that it's definitely bad recruitment at United, but I think it's also, more importantly, retention of crap Deadwood. That is what's... we haven't cleared that team out, and I think we get so caught up on signings, and signings are very important. We know we've got to buy ourselves out of this trouble. But what the problem is we don't get rid of the crap. We won't get rid of the crap. We've, in all fairness, like Valencia, yeah, probably about time he went. Herrera, no way should he have gone. Mata, probably. Rojo, well, he's not worse than Jones and Smalling. Fairness, Valencia's not worse than Young. So, I mean, that's the problem United have had over the last few years. We've just not got rid of the Deadwood. We've retained the Deadwood in the squad, and that's prevented youth coming through, and it's prevented recruitment. And that's why, when you look at the fact that Pep's bought 23 players in 3 years, and you look at Mourinho got 9 players in 3 years, well, the reason is you're not going to buy 23 players if you're still keeping most of the squad. And we haven't got rid of that squad in the time that we've been there. And that's been a massive problem for Manchester United. Bruno Fernandes doesn't seem to be interested in United. He praised City and Liverpool style. Didn't mention United, but I want United to go Fernandes, Dan Maddison, but I don't think it will happen. I think, thanks for the contribution, Anup. I think the thing with Manchester United at the moment is that we don't... we need a director of football, Harry Law. We do. I think the problem with United at the moment is we've got no idea what the club has got no idea, but we have got no idea what we're going to do. And I spoke about this morning, so I don't want to go on about it. But I I know Liverpool or Man City are going to win the league next year because we're not. Spurs won't, and Chelsea and Arsenal won't. So Liverpool and Man City are going to win the league next year. Do I want Liverpool to win the league? After winning the Champions League this year, they win the league next year. That's like dreamland for them. Do I want City to win the league? That would be 3 titles in a row, equaling our record. I don't want either of them to win the league, but one of them is going to win the league. And we're going to have to accept that. But what I don't like is that we are unable to stop these things from happening. And Manchester United should be able to stop this from happening. We should always be competing for titles, and we need to get back to doing that. So I'm not angry or frustrated by the fact that City and Liverpool are winning the titles and whatever. I'm angry and frustrated that my football club is nowhere near the level it should be. It's a bloody embarrassment. It's an absolute embarrassment. I mean, if we were run properly, people would be sacked. If we were run like a Bayern Munich or a Real Madrid or a Barcelona, where people are elected to be the president of the club, then the current president of the last 6 years would be long gone. But what we have is an ownership where we know who the owners are. The chief executive, Deadwood, would basically help them buy it, so there's a lot of loyalty there. There's no accountability for mistakes at the top level, and that's not being horrible to Ed Woodward or the Glazers or anybody else on the board. This is business. And the reality is, over the last 6 years, we've made big decisions at business level that have been bad decisions. And yet those people are still making the decisions. And that's what worries me, and that's where my lack of faith is. I think this summer has to be defining for Manchester United. And I'm worried because any other club would have cleared house in the board because of the decisions that have been made. Louis van Gaal said when he took the Manchester United job, there was no mention of philosophy or how the team should play. And he said at Barcelona and Ajax, that is part of the discussion when you become the manager because they have a philosophy. How the bloody hell? We know the philosophy of Manchester United. We know what it is. It's risk-taking. It's using the wing. It's fast movement of the ball. It's exciting football. It's the Manchester United way. Louis van Gaal, when he was offered the job, there's no insistence on how he needs to play. He could have come and parked the bus. Like, who is in charge of the football club and who is recruiting managers and not... No wonder Mourinho came in and played such a shit style of football. If Van Gaal wasn't told about how they want United to play, then no wonder we're recruiting people who don't fit into how we should play as a club. No wonder we're, as a fan base, we're frustrated. So that's what worries me about Manchester United. It's like, I don't like seeing what happened on Saturday night with Liverpool, and I don't like seeing what's happening with Manchester City. But I don't think we're at the bottom of the barrel yet. I don't. I think there's even lower to go. And if you think, how much lower can you go than watching City win a domestic treble and Liverpool winning the Champions League? I don't know. But I don't think we're bouncing back yet. I don't. I still think the ball's going down a little bit. And that's what worries me. Because I just want to get... I want my Manchester United back. I think we all do. And who we're going to sign, what we're going to sign, I don't know. I don't know. I think Daniel James is the only one I'm sort of certain about. And I think United... I'm lost, and I'll keep saying this because it's really important that we remember it. I'm lost on this fact that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said in his last press conference, you'd be surprised at the quality of player that wants to come to this club. And that's the thing that keeps going round my head all the time. Because on August the 8th, when we start the new season, if I ain't surprised by the quality of player that we've been brought in, I'm going to be pretty pissed off. Because that's what they've got to do. They've got to change. They've got to reinvent the wheel at Manchester United. They've got to bring in the quality players. And if Paul Pogba's staying, you've got to get better players around Pogba. I don't want Paul Pogba to be the star of the team anymore. If Pogba's staying, great. But I don't want him to be the star. It doesn't work. We need a couple of stars around him. We need Pogba to be a player, not a focal point. And that's one of the big things we need to do this summer if he's going to stay. So it's a massive summer for Manchester United. There's all this talk about we're going to spend money. And going back to the start of the show, James Maddison. Look, there he is on the screen with Ligt and Wan-Bissaka. Imagine if we got those three players in. It won't happen because you've got a combined value. Basically, what are you, 200 million for those three players? We won't get all three. But James Maddison is such a logical signing. Such a logical signing for Manchester United. And with Lukaku on the screen there as well, first weaknesses, first touch. We only had to go with one. There was loads. You could say his physicality is a weakness as well because he's bulked up too much. But I'd take 60 million for him. How many signings in and out this summer do you think, says Manchester United Business Club? I think 5 in, 5 out is the minimum that we need to do. Madit Mayok says boring transfer ever for United. Well, no, you need to understand a little bit about this transfer window before you say that. It's not going to... The problem with the transfer window is that there's two things really. One, as I've said before, the transfer window in England should not open in the middle of May, and we should blame Arsene Wenger for this. The transfer window should still run till the end of August, but we've changed it to August the 8th because that's when the season starts. That was a big mistake. And opening it up in the middle of May, nobody's ever going to sign because the European leagues are still running. And then the second part to it is that our season finished at the start of May. You know, United haven't played for a long time. If we'd been playing in an FA Cup final or, dream on a European Cup or a Europa League final, then our season would have only been over a week ago. And then we'd be thinking about transfers now. Because we had such a bad season, it's been, over 3 weeks since we played a game. So those 3 weeks we've been what's going on? I think transfers were only really ever going to kick in next week, which is why I think this week, now the Champions League's out of the way, I think, all right, you've got the internationals, but they're not major news. I think you're going to see a lot more developments now. And what I would say about Manchester United is, over the last couple of years especially, the players we're going to sign, we're signing them at least 2 weeks before they're going to sign, because United's got more leaks than a sieve. So what are the leaks around United at the moment? And that's why I take note of that James Maddison thing, because it's well, we know that United don't sign anybody until at least a week after it's been in the news. So what's in the news at the moment? Obviously, Ligt's in the news, Bruno Fernandes is in the news, and now Madison's in the news. So I hope that's going to happen, but we've got to do a lot of business. Harold Holst Versvolt says, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer told Ed Woodward to get rid of the Deadwood by next summer as an absolute deadline. Furthermore, consistency is important, have been missing for years. I suppose the flip side to that, Harold, is that, and I agree with Chewy, there'll be no transfers until the Nations Cup is done. The flip side to that about the Deadwood is that we've just given Phil Jones a 5-year contract, so he's obviously not considered to be Deadwood. Sort the defence out first and build from that, says Richard Johnson. I think the defence in the midfield is really important. And Lingard is Wigan standard, says Jack Richards. I mean, amazingly, Lingard will probably start for England on Thursday night, which I just don't get. I'm from Malaysia and I'll be coming to Manchester in October. Hope to meet up and flex. I've been your biggest fan every night. 4 a.m. I watch your show. Can I have your signed jersey, please? Says Hey Heng Wong. I'll tell you what, mate. If you let me know when you're coming over to Manchester and what game you're going to be at, I will get you a signed shirt and I'll make sure that Flex has got it outside the ground if I'm not going to be there myself. Love Island's on tonight, Mark, says Jack Coleman. You know what? I tweeted this earlier, Jack. I've never watched Love Island. The wife watches it and I've said, I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to try it tonight and see how it goes. So I will be tweeting at 10 o'clock and we'll see how that goes. Thanks, George Kyle. I was just about to do Brandon myself. Once the Nations Cup is over, the transfers will fly in, says Stephen Diak. We need that sort of positivity. We need that sort of positivity. Of course we do. As I said, I think what a lot of people are getting worried about is that Ollie said, I'd like to have a lot of the deals done by July the 1st. And we all know that the Nations Cup doesn't finish until, internationals don't finish until about the 10th or 11th of June. So that gives you, 3 weeks to get 5 transfers done. And we won't do that. But we're not going out on the tour until the 10th of July. So that gives us another week as well. Ollie wants deals done by July the 1st. Never going to happen, says Ryan FT. Exactly, Ryan. I didn't know you were going to say that. But yeah, We'll be all right. We'll get the deal. We'll get. Well, no, I can't say that. We'll get deals done. And if you're asking me who I think we're going to sign, I'm only going to predict that I do think we'll get Bruno Fernandes. because I know we want Bruno Fernandes, and if we don't get him, it's because we've missed out. I think beyond... I mean, the Ligt one's very interesting. There's been talk of... The latest on Ligt is that he's had important offers from us, Barcelona, Juventus and PSG. I think that Ligt will go to Barcelona. I do. I've always felt that. But the decision isn't made with Ligt yet. So we'll have to wait and see, won't we? But I don't think we'll get Ligt, but I do think we'll get a centre-back. So... I just want United to be back competitive again. I want us to play Liverpool and Man City and think, you know what, we can win this game of football. You know, I want to be masters of our own destiny again. I want to be impactful. I don't want to be hoping on others doing us favours against our rivals. I want to bloody do it ourselves. That's what I want. Ed Woodward's made a contribution. Let's talk about sixth, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. You will never walk alone. Woodward is a major problem with the board, says Michael Jones. And how do you know? Graphics says, how do you know? I personally think we will sign a maximum of 2 players. If we sign 2 players in the transfer window, then I will be angry. I nearly said I'll be done, but I'll never be done. We'll never be done. We're always going to support the club. But I think the previous comment and that comment sort of, you know, if... We're all scared that the board's the problem at Manchester United. You've got Van Gaal coming out with those comments basically confirming that. Is this board going to change, or is it going to continue to do what it's done for 6 years? It makes no sense for them to continue to do what they've done for the next 6 years because they're businessmen who want to make money. And I'll tell you what, Liverpool will be making a lot of money at the moment because success brings money in and it brings fans in. And if United think they're going to get more and more big sponsorship deals when they're playing shit, then they will dry up. So the message from Manchester United Football Club is that they've got a lot of money to spend and they're going to spend it this summer. If they only buy 2 players, then I totally agree and empathise with every United fan who's very, very, very pissed off because we're basically acting like Bournemouth. You know, that's what we are doing. We've got... You know, if we think that this current squad that finished 6th only needs 2 players adding to it, no, we need a lot more. Does Madison fit the system being more of a number 10, says Ollie Copsey? Well, no, I think Madison can definitely play in a midfield 3. I think he can play box to box as well. I've seen him play for Leicester and I know he can play in a more advanced position, but he can also play in a midfield. And Brendan Rodgers actually played him in a little bit of a deeper midfield position anyway, in like a 3. So yeah, I think it'd be a very good signing for United. The thoughts on the Reece James rumours, says Red Devils fan 7. Funnily enough, talking about the graphics, thanks to Draughty Devil, but we were talking about this at the weekend because he rates Reece James and he said I'd love us to sign him. I just don't think we'd get him because he's a Chelsea player, isn't he? And I don't think Chelsea would sell to us. Ramsey Comics, Milinkovic-Savic if Pogba goes, penny for thoughts. Milinkovic-Savic, no, he was a Mourinho target. He won't be a United target anymore. I think he's going to Juventus. You got to spend money to make money, says True United. Welcome to Juzo Salo, the latest member of the United Stand Members Club. Remember, you can become a member by clicking the join button. You get access to our emojis and you get a little badge next to your name, which changes each month you're a member. And Madison is an attacking midfielder, mate. Feels like you are making stuff up, says David. No, I don't. David, I don't need to make things up. I watch a lot of football, as I'm sure you do. And Madison can play in a midfield 3. That was the answer to the question. And under Brendan Rodgers, go back, check the lineup, watch the games. He played as a more deeper midfielder than he was playing under Puel, where he was playing more as a number 10. But he can play in a midfield 3. That is the fact. Thank you very much. And Simon Smith, BBC, Rabiot has agreed Manchester United contract, says Martin Byrne. Well, we all shoot off to Twitter to see if that is true, which I'm sure it isn't, but I can double check that for you while we're live. Because I think that Simon Smith account is actually a fake. I think I'm pretty 100% sure it's a fake account. Because it's Simon Stone. Here we go. I found it. Yes, there is a Simon Smith. On Twitter, and it's a fake account. So I'll tell you what, it's sad. It's sad the amount of people who actually don't bother to research these people. He's a fake. He's a fake. Martin Byrne, sorry about that, he's a fake. When Lukaku does leave and go, Diego Martinez on Twitter as well, another fake if you want to know. When Lukaku does leave and go to Inter, who are we going to use as a striker? Can't be Rashford, and if it is, who will we compete with him for the spot? Maybe Mason Greenwood. Maybe Mason Greenwood, Reg Shane 1193. And Rob Welsh, shout out to my 6-year-old son, Indy, scored 8 today in the new United kit. Indy, maybe he can replace Lukaku up front then. Hey Mark, what do you feel about Fosu Mensah in CDM over Matic, especially if we don't go into the transfer market for a CDM, says Nathan Gullickson. I'd just be annoyed that we didn't go into the transfer market. Lifestyle Tube, what do you think of Fernandes saying he prefers Liverpool or Man City? I think he's been misinterpreted, to be honest with you. I don't think he actually said that. He's spoken about United as well. Welcome to Michael Melrose, the latest member of the United Stand Members Club. Eric Bay liking someone's comments, which is basically about Rashford not being good enough. Maybe he's got a media team. I don't know. I think Eric Bay is going to leave anyway. With regards to anybody who says that the Ligt is coming to Manchester United and has already decided he's coming to United, they're bullshitters. They're absolute bullshitters, because the Ligt himself has said he's not made his mind up yet. And anybody credible knows that De Ligt hasn't made his mind up yet. What you've got is people who every summer set up accounts and try and lie their way to credibility, and they delete the ones they get wrong and they keep the ones that they get right. De Ligt hasn't made his mind up. De Ligt could join United, and then everybody else who lied and pretended they knew and guessed will go, I knew all along. But De Ligt hasn't even made his mind up. So, no. Director of football got no idea, mate. No idea. Anyway, thanks. I'm suddenly gone really hot. I don't know why it is. It's not actually that hot. It must be the lights. Suddenly gone really, really hot. Anyway, please do smash a like on the video, everybody. Especially I love the fact that we've got these little graphic things next to me now. I know everyone likes looking and listening to me, but at least it gives you a little bit more of info while we're live as well. Thanks everybody for watching. Transfer Daily will be back tomorrow. We couldn't put it up this morning because there was a problem with YouTube, so it is going to be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. So make sure you're subscribed. You've got your notifications on. And I shall speak to you in the morning. Really enjoyed the show again tonight, and yeah, interesting week ahead. Thanks for watching. Oh, his final question from Elliot Murphy. Who would you prefer at United right now, Klopp or Ollie? Ollie. I'm not going to choose a Liverpool manager, am I?